then the whispers became something else. They became roars. Not a single voice, but a million, all at once, a galactic cry of rage and grief echoing across the holonet. Images, raw and unfiltered, bleeding across screens. Families buried in rubble, ships burning in cold vacuum. Leaders standing behind podiums saying everything and nothing all at once. The galaxy paused, almost as if it had seen enough. Artesia, a world just a couple systems over from the Hapen cluster, became something else that night. Not just a planet, not just a protest, a reckoning. The low murmur of a crowd swells into something more, a current of voices, restless and urgent. Chants ripple through the air, not uniform, but overlapping, colliding in raw emotion. Handmade banners snap in the wind, splashed with words. No more. Justice for all. They came in the thousands. Young, defiant, the generation raised on crisis after crisis. Students who should have been in lectures, artists who should have been creating, engineers, medics, pilots, dreamers, standing shoulder to shoulder because they had been told their whole lives to wait, to trust, to be patient. But patience had run dry. The sound shifted, shoes scraping pavement, voices weaving together, the electric hum of holocams capturing every moment. Leah Corson, an activist in her early 20s, spoke into a holocam, breathless, pushing through the crowd. Her voice was shaking. We're here because we have to be. Because no one else seems to be able to do a damn thing while people die. They say it's complicated, that we can't take sides. She stops, swallowing the anger, steadying herself before the words crack. Tell that to the ones caught in the crossfire. Tell that to the refugees sleeping in the streets. Tell that to the families who have nothing left. She looks past the lens, out at the sea of bodies, fists raised, voices roar from shouting. They call us reckless, radicals, unruly, good. The chant shifts. No peace without justice. No peace without justice. A drumbeat of voices, defiant, young, unafraid. Among them stood Darren Malkath, a much older man who was born in the colonies and worked in legislation within the Corps in his day before fleeing further south to avoid the ongoing conflict. He had once believed in its laws. But tonight, as he gazed upon the thousands before him, he saw not lawlessness, but justice demanding to be heard. His voice is burdened with the weight of history. He speaks perhaps to someone beside him, perhaps to himself. I sat in those chambers once, you know. I listened to the same hollow speeches, the same rehearsed outrage. Many call themselves leaders, but leaders act. They stand, and if they will not, if they fail, then the people must. He took a breath, and it was heavy with something unsaid. I have seen this before. I have lived this before. The price of freedom is always paid in suffering. The civilians of this galaxy are tired, and yet here we are, still demanding to be heard, still standing in the streets, begging for justice like paupers before a throne. His voice steadied. It was quieter now, but unshakable. But tonight, we do not beg. Fight them back. Above them, the sky was streaked with floating collages, vivid, sprawling expressions of rage and hope, torn from old holonews clippings, broken treaties, faces lost to war. The art form Artesia was known for had become its battle cry. But this was more than protest, more than grief. This was refusal. Then came the sound of distant marching, metal boots against stone. a familiar, suffocating presence. The crowd shifts but does not scatter. Security forces formed a wall at the edge of the protest, faceless and rigid, shields reflecting the neon haze of the city. The message was clear: disperse or be removed. But no one moved. Instead, someone in the crowd began to sing. A low, trembling note at first, breaking through the thick air like a hairline crack in glass. Then another voice, and another, until the night was filled with an old resistance hymn, one from every side of the war. It came from a pamphlet secured by the foundation, the spark of freedom. A song of those who had suffered, those who had lost, those who refused to be forgotten, those who wanted to stand and fight. The sound swells, voices in harmony, no longer shouting but demanding in another way. The armored figures hesitate, a beat too long. For one breath, the galaxy held still, and then the world turned on. There was a snap, a bright white flash, the eruption of movement, the chaos of a moment tipping over into something irreversible. And then